Top of the morning, YouTube. First of all, I finally figured out that if I turn my camera around and use the camera on the back of the phone, it looks a hell of a lot better than doing, the flip it around so you can actually see yourself when you're recording it. So my videos will be a lot better from now on, as you may have told from my mini stick videos over the last little while. But anyways, I finally caved and had to watch Sportsnet last night, or else I couldn't have watched the Leafs game. So that's the first time since Cherry was let go that I've done that, and I still hope to only do it for Leafs games and nothing else. But that is what it is. So, as for the Leafs last night, talk about the difference a coaching change can make, eh? They're 3-0 since Babs was let go and Sheldon Keefe took over. Excuse me, it's early. Oh my god, it's not very professional of me, but I don't give a care. Like I think I mentioned last time, like Keefe is kind of Dubas's guy. They were together in Sault Ste. Marie in the OHL, and they have the same philosophy on how they want this team to play. They want more of a wide open puck possession, take it to you offensively kind of team. Whereas Babs was more of he wanted a different type of game out of these players, more of a grinding, lockdown defensive type of game, and that's good because it was good and bad. It was good because that's the kind of game that will win you playoff games. This philosophy now with Keefe and Dubas, they're looking really good right now, but I don't think they'll have a shot to win the cup because it's usually bigger, stronger, more defensive-minded teams that win the cup. Just look at St. Louis and Boston going at it last year in the cup, right? And that's the way it is most years, if not every year. So I have no doubt that this type of hockey is going to carry them through the rest of the season and probably get them into the playoffs. Their bad start is kind of working against them, but I think they're going to be good enough to come back and get in. But my voice is cracking today too. I feel like crap anyways. Whether it's going to be enough to sustain a cup run, I don't know. It might be enough to finally get them out of the first round, depending on who they draw as an opponent. If they get Boston again, But anyways, this whole philosophy change though for the Leafs right now is doing them wonders. I mean, Tyson Barrie was being, the whipping boy. He couldn't score. People were saying he wanted out of Toronto because it was such a lousy start. Since Keefe took over, he's got 3 goals in 3 games, and he looks like a totally different player, which is what I expected from him. So he scored the Leafs' second goal last night. Travis Dermott got the first goal, so that's his second since coming back. And then Tavares, who hadn't been scoring at the pace he was last year, got the third one in the first period. Oh, excuse me again. Oh. To make it 3-0 Leafs by the end of the first. And then in the second period, they would add 3 more. Nylander got the first one, and then Johnsson got 2 in a row. One of them a power play goal to make it 6-0, and that's where things would end up. They would just coast through the third period. And to be honest, this was like watching an NHL team play like a pee-wee team. It was just brutal. Talk about puck possession. They had it the whole game. The first period, Detroit actually had some good chances and stuff, but as the game went on and the Leafs took over, it was just worse and worse and worse, and it was just a clinic by the Leafs. And they ended up outshooting them 54-25 or something like that. It was just brutal. And the only category they didn't lead in was hits, which is to be expected from this team, right? They didn't take any penalties, so they didn't have to test their penalty kill. And they only had 1 power play opportunity, and one of Jansson's goals converted on the man advantage. So everything was working. Fred got the shutout. They ended up winning 6-0, and just everything seemed to be firing on all cylinders. And poor Detroit too. They've got a bunch of injuries, and then Jimmy Howard got hurt in the first period, and then they had to wait until Bernier could get dressed because he had gotten sick and wasn't even on the bench and had gotten out of his gear. So it was just one of those games for the poor Red Wings, and one of those games for the high-flying Maple Leafs. So all points right now, everything's encouraging with the coaching change. And to be honest, there's so much stuff coming out now about Babs and the way he ran things, and then you see the whole thing that's going on in Calgary with Bill Peters and his ranting and raving there and his racial slurs and stuff. Nobody's safe anymore in this day of social media and accountability. And my 2 cents in terms of a coaching philosophy, when I grew up playing, hockey, football, baseball, and my hockey coaches were always great. I never got any bad ones. My baseball coaches were always great because my dad coached for most of the time. Football's a whole different bag of hammers. I never responded well to coaches that ranted and raved and yelled at you and singled you out and were just jackasses, right? That's like no. Like, tell me what you want and I'll try and do it, I'm not going to say, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm on this team to win and be a team player and do what I have to fit in and play. And you don't have to treat me like an asshole, So I always responded more to coaches that were nice and just talk to you and explain what they wanted you to do. I would go out and do it to the best of my ability. If it wasn't in my skill set, let's try something else. And if it was, I'll do it to the best of my ability until I become great at it, and it'll become part of my game, right? Some guys, I think, maybe respond differently to different coaches, but overall, especially in today's age, I think this whole coach who's an asshole comes in yelling, screaming, kicking things around, I think that's going out. And although some players may still need that type of approach from time to time, I think the open communication, the talking about it and being reasonable about it is the way things are going to go. And I agree with that because that's the way I operate. And I think that's more what, I don't think Babs was a complete asshole or anything, but he was more of a stubborn, played favorites kind of guy, right? Whereas Sheldon Keefe, I think, is more the opposite way of the kind of guy like I like. That's just like, hey, what's going on? How are we going to fix this? Just cool, chill. They're talking about him last night during the game, like on the bench. He doesn't get upset. He doesn't yell. He's just like chill, quiet, talking to guys. And I agree with that. And right now, this has been the perfect fit for the Leafs. We'll see if they can sustain it over the rest of the season, and if they make the playoffs, what happens. But for now, things are looking a hell of a lot better than they were even a week ago. So good to see, and a busy weekend this weekend. So we'll see how things go. And they called up Hutch from the AHL, so he's going to get another chance, which I totally agree with. You know my feelings on poor Hutch. And hopefully he can get into some games because, like I said, it's a busy weekend, and possibly reel off his first win.